Per aspera, ad astra. By these struggles you will visit the stars. This is as the world burns.
My fellow Americans.
Well, I'm not a crook. I've earned everything I've got.
A man holds in his mortal hand the power to abolish all forms of human poverty and all forms of human life.
That's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
One day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character.
He says, now I am become death, the destroyer of worlds. I suppose we all thought that.
Turn on, tune in, and drop out. Either way, it's as the world burns. Today we're going to be talking about the psychic abilities that potentially mankind and I guess maybe animals might have.
I think if anything, animals would have more.
Yeah. Well, they're uninhibited, right? Their brains are uninhibited, so they would probably be able to tap into things at least a lot easier.
I like that.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Same thing with like a small child, you know? They say that like children can tap into shit because maybe their brains are less developed. All right. Couple of things here today. Before we jump into the psychic abilities, did you hear about the massive radar anomaly appearing in Alabama during an unknown military test at Redstone Arsenal?
No.
That was yesterday or today. It was kind of an interesting little thing. Let me bring it up on the screen real quick, and I'll talk about it. I mean, the audience can't see it, but you know, just bear with me, audience. You've gotten this far, so you can see that right there now. So this is at approximately 3:48 p.m. on June 26th.
All right, I'm watching. Whoa.
Isn't that weird?
Yeah.
An unknown anomaly spanning thousands of square miles was detected by weather radar over central Alabama. The massive anomaly
Do it in
remains
slow mo, and it
stationary.
looks like it's growing out, like it expands outward.
That's crazy. Oh
See that how
yeah,
it grew?
yeah.
I think it might be something underground.
Huh.
Because there's like population right there. It's not like that should just like anybody saw anything, you know?
Yeah.
I think that's something underground right there. These may have like dropped a huge like hydrogen bomb underneath the ground to open up a huge cavern to build inside of.
It says the massive anomaly remained stationary for roughly 20 minutes before disappearing from radar. Huh.
See what I'm saying?
Shortly after, images began appearing on social media of black smoke seen rising from Redstone Arsenal in Huntsville, Alabama. Military officials informed the public yesterday that testing on the base would produce large amounts of smoke. However, details surrounding the nature and reason for the test were not disclosed. It is possible these two events are unrelated since Redstone Arsenal is located in northern Alabama, and it is also possible the anomaly itself was simply a radar glitch. But it warrants further research given the sheer size of the anomaly and coinciding the same day as an unknown military test that produced visible smoke clouds seen from tens of miles away. One, do you think there's a connection between the two events? And two, do you think the anomaly was a radar glitch or something else? Yeah, somebody does say it's nowhere near the arsenal, but it is very odd. That's a very weird thing. Interesting though. That was you know, for anyone that's interested, massive radar anomaly in Alabama. Another thing I kind of wanted to mention because I just thought it was really interesting considering we talked about how we should paint North Korea is North Korea is to open a beach resort as Kim Jong-un bets on tourism. North Korea is going to start having a beach resort soon.
Oh, great.
Isn't that crazy?
For no one to enjoy?
For no one to enjoy. I like this next headline. It's related to this. But after this, I'm going to stop with the headlines. But this was funny to me. South Korea, and I didn't even hear about this originally, but apparently they're stopping this. South Korea stops blasting K-pop and propaganda at North Korea. That's hilarious.
That is hilarious.
They're just blasting K-pop and propaganda. It's the funniest like psychological warfare ever. Now we're gonna talk about psychic abilities. I guess we should go over all the psychic abilities first. We'll go over them right now in alphabetical order, according to basic psychic ability, and then afterwards it'll be extrasensory abilities. But so these are the basic psychic abilities. Aerokinesis, the ability to control air and wind. And I was kind of looking into this one a little bit because I thought it was kind of a little wild because they also had like pyrokinesis and whatever water kinesis would be. And hydrokinesis is what it would be called. I was relating this to astrology and I was realizing that supposedly a lot of people can conjure different elements just by like tapping into their like astrological element or something like that. Like they can like cause like water to like fill in their hands or like the wind to pick up or
Straight up magic.
yeah, exactly. Straight up.
Like magic in the way that it was sold to us.
Yeah, exactly. But it's like a lot more subtler than how you would like think of like a whole like bunch of water rushing in. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You like, you know, your hand gets like wet and like you feel like wetness form, your hand gets like wind picking up on it, subtle things like that. Next up is astral projection and or aka mental projection. The ability to voluntarily project an astral body or mental body being associated with the out of body experience in which one's consciousness is felt to separate from the physical body temporarily. I mean, I think we all know what astral projection is, but that's pretty fucking, you know, it's just a wild concept to even have like in the arsenal.
Yeah.
You know, for anyone that doesn't know what if you're listening to this and you've gotten this far, then I assume you probably know what astral projection is, but you know, think Doctor Strange going into like the spirit realm, right? Like when he's in his astral body. I mean, if you know what that is, then you probably know what astral projection is at that point. So who am I kidding?
Who are you kidding?
Yeah, who am I kidding? Atmokinesis, the ability to control the weather by calling for rainfall or storm. Got any I guess views on that one? I is this like the stuff they were doing in The Men Who Stare at Goats, or is that different?
I don't know. I don't know.
When they were trying to break the clouds, that must be something different. That must be more of like telepathy, right?
That sounds like it could be aerokinesis.
Yeah, well, atmokinesis. Well, yeah, it could be aerokinesis too, but like cloud, what did they call it? Cloud breaking or something like that? I don't know. The ability to control the weather by calling for rainfall or storm. See, the first thing that popped into my head when I thought of this is like stuff like rain dancing and like all the different like ways that we've tried to like channel like the rain and stuff like that. Or like harvest. But I guess that would be more like ritualistic, but I guess the rain dancing would be kind of more like atmokinesis if it works. I read a theory once about the rain dancing actually working, and it was actually like a practical idea behind when people used to like perform rituals and actually like um like Native Americans would like perform like these smoke rituals and stuff like that, right? In order to do like the rain dancing. And I read a theory that like they got the fires and the smoke to be so heavy that part of the reason why they did end up getting rain if they did was because they added so much like CO2 and like smoke to that small amount of atmosphere that they were able to create like an artificial cloud.
That's what they did? You think so?
I mean, I don't think so, but that's just the theory I heard that I thought was pretty interesting.
I mean, it is interesting.
Because we do know that CO2 does affect the atmosphere. And we do know that you can change the weather by affecting the CO2 in the atmosphere. But the next psychic ability I think is kind of this one's interesting. Automatic writing. The ability to draw or write without conscious intent. I mean, there's a lot of people that supposedly had that. There was that one priest, or who was it? Was it a cardinal who was like gonna be like exiled or put to death or something like that, and he was told over the night to write out a manuscript that like would convince them to spare his life or something like that. And so he like wrote out this huge manuscript of like magic and like demonology and all kinds of like crazy stuff. And I guess it goes that he was spared because of it, but it ended up being one of the most famous like uh like manuscripts of all time in, I think, the occult. And it has this really famous picture of and it has this really famous drawing or picture of like supposedly the devil.
Yeah, I've seen this.
You know what I was gonna say, you know what I'm talking about, because
Oh yeah.
that's like yeah, that's like the famous thing about it, is that like it's like a very uncanny weird picture of the devil that's just like super detailed and looks very surreal when you look at it. It's kind of wild. So automatic writing, I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of people that like supposedly like could channel like things and write without conscious intent. That seems like that's a very basic like psychic ability. No offense to the psychics that can do it.
That sounds like a writing, like practice, stream of consciousness.
Well, exactly. I do that when I write sometimes. I'll just write out whatever comes to my head and then just like go back and just re-edit it and try to find something more coherent out of it. That's kind of what I do with this actually. That's kind of funny. Um so I guess next up is bilocation, the ability to be present in two different places at the same time, usually attributed to a saint. Now there's so many instances too of saints like popping up in different places, and like you seeing like all these like different there was one in Lisbon where Mary, I think, where Mary popped up like for like, I don't know, a good amount of time, and like 200 people like saw her and like reported about it, like a glowing figure in like the sky or something like that, or up on a building. And it was like reported to be like the figure of of Mary, the father of Jesus. So that's a thing. Bilocation though, like that could just be like somebody channeling in two different places at once. That might not even just be like a saint kind of thing.
That means physically being in two locations.
Is that is that what that means? So it wouldn't just be that.
Is it? Isn't that what it is?
The ability to be present in two different places at the same time. I guess that's what it would be. I could just click into this one a little bit more. Let's see. An alleged psychic or miraculous ability wherein an individual or object is located or appears to be located in two distinct places at the same time. Reports of bilocational phenomena have been made in a variety of historical and religious contexts, ranging from ancient Greek legends and Christian traditions to modern occultism. And that thing that I saw, where I saw, you know, the person walking behind the other person that wasn't there, that could have been technically like a bilocation thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah. True. That's true.
That's one of the things that popped up when I looked at the mysticism book. It popped up with that as one of the things that it said. In the 17th century, persons accused of witchcraft were often reported to appear to their victims in visions, even if they were known to be elsewhere at the time. That's the dumbest shit ever, though. So you have a dream about somebody? Oh my god, that person's a witch. Holy shit. I just had a daydream that that person was murdering my entire family. They must be a witch. That's how the 17th century went.
Yeah, for real.
Yeah.
Oh, she was in my dreams.
She
What a witch.
she invaded my dreams. I saw her. She was a witch. Looking at me with those harpy eyes. All of a sudden she started cackling and her nails grew sharp. And I woke up from this bloody sweat and I said, "Alas, we must burn her at the stake." That's what they did, right? They burned him at the stake, right?
Sometimes there's a lot of different ways, I think.
Oh yeah, they would like, yeah.
Like being crushed to death.
You know, this is pretty topical to the current, thing that we're talking about, psychic abilities. Like, it's pretty fucking stupid and crazy how much they went after witches in like from like say the 1000 AD to like I guess you could even say up until like say 1700s or 1800s. Like the persecution of witches is so fucked up that it's crazy. And a lot of it was not even for reasons of them practicing magic. It was like as stated in like or as pretty much theorized in from the Salem witch trials. A lot of it was like jealousy and rampant like stupid shit like gossip and shit like that. It was just stupid shit. And it led to like the deaths of so many people and for nothing. That's the kind of stupid bullshit that sets us back, you know?
Keep preaching, dude. Go off right now.
Go off about how I hate the fact that Salem witch trials persecuted them, you know?
There were witch trials outside of Salem.
Well, that's why I said 1000 AD to,
Yeah.
around 1800s. That's when it kind of stopped, really, right? Around the 1800s. It was still kind of,
I'm not sure when it stopped.
I mean, it was rampant in the 1600s. I feel like once the Salem witch trials happened, they were just like, yeah, we cannot be like keep doing this. We got a little too carried away on this one.
I got a little overzealous.
Got a little overzealous. Guys, we all had some fun here, but we can't be doing this all the time anymore. This was too much. One guy was basically like preaching like how people preach against Nancy Pelosi, like even though they buy stocks themselves nowadays, they'll preach against Nancy Pelosi buying stocks in Congress.
Yeah.
It's like that one guy was like, "Oh, well, I murdered 2 or 3 witches, but you know what? It was all in good fun. I think we should stop now. Nobody else should murder any witches.
Yeah. Now that they had all the fun, they want us to stop.
We're just gonna go pick some apples and discover electricity with our friends." That's what I imagine they were doing in like the 16 and 1700s, is picking apples and discovering electricity.
We discovered electricity over 12,000 years ago.
But my boy Benny Franklin was out there in a storm and he had that key on the kite or whatever the fuck he did. I don't know. It might have been like a myth at this point. And he harnessed electricity. And that right there, for a mere mortal man to harness electricity at a time when we were walking around like Neanderthals, putting witches on and burning them and hanging them and shit. That's an impressive feat. So that was bilocation. We got a little in the weeds on that one.
Mm-hmm.
People are skeptical about this. Who would have thought? Let's move on to the next one because every single one of these are going to have a skepticism place. Biokinesis. I'm not even a skeptic. I'm just going to run through all of these like they exist and just try to find scenarios where they fit.
State them as facts.
Yeah, exactly. So try to find where they would fit to in our society and where they have been like worked, I guess.
Yeah.
Biokinesis, the ability to control any form of life from a single nucleotide to an entire ecosystem simultaneously. So how the fuck would that work? So you can control all life around you? That's what this is
That's a
saying?
weird one.
That's what I'm getting out of it, right? Biokinesis?
You can just kill people with your brain.
Or you can improve the environment, make things brighter and happier around you. It's basically like either.
Yeah, that would be a better way to use it, huh?
Well, I was thinking like it's either a soul drainer or a soul improver, is what it sounds like. The ability to control any form of life. That's just what that is. It's an energy drainer, an energy like it's just I guess an energy like controller. So this next one is called chlorokinesis. Is this the ability to control your pool?
That's to control plants.
The ability to mentally and/or physically summon, control, and manipulate plants and vegetation. Ding, ding, ding! We got a winner. It is the ability to control plants.
Hell yeah.
That would be a cool ability, honestly. Like that seems like it's more of like you're friends with the plants than you're controlling them. But what do I know? Cryokinesis, the ability to control ice or cold with one's mind. I don't even know how that would work. That just sounds like total like mind over matter.
Have you ever seen the X-Men?
Yeah, but I don't know how that would work like how I said that like, you know, controlling the wind is just having like the wind flow through your hands and kind of making that flow happen or getting
Have you ever seen Avatar: The Last Airbender?
can they manipulate ice like that?
Yeah.
I guess so. I don't know. I feel like I don't know. I wonder if cryokinesis could also be the ability to like go into the cold. You know what I mean, and be like a mind over matter thing.
Handle the cold, maybe.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know. I do have like breakdowns of more of these later. But a curse. Any expressed wish that some form of adversary or misfortune will befall or attach to one or more persons, a place, or an object. I mean, we all know what curses are. Famous curse, Tutankhamun's curse. That's one that we haven't really talked about. That's a good one.
What's another curse?
The Hope Diamond curse. That's supposedly this diamond that's been like you know, shifted around a little bit here and there. Like a lot of people that like get it supposedly like die or something like that. What are some other good curses? That Annabelle doll, supposedly the real like Raggedy Ann doll that it's based on is cursed. What are Montezuma's Revenge? I don't know if that's a real curse, but that's a thing. What else? What else? What are some real curses? Oh, the King Philip's War. Supposedly King Philip cursed the land after the land of like Plymouth and all that shit after you know, he died and his head was like put on a pike for a few years until someone stole it. That's just like colonial America shit. What are some other good curses though? There's got to be like some other good curses out there. Curses are interesting actually.
Curses are interesting.
They are.
Like, did I say movie sets already?
Oh yeah, there's a lot of cursed movie sets. Poltergeist? No, you didn't.
I just thought it. I didn't say it out loud.
Oh.
Okay.
You didn't psychically project it to me? Damn.
I thought I did.
Ah. It didn't work this time around. I was trying to think of another one and I think Poltergeist was on the tip of my tongue, so maybe I was reaching for something. Another curse set you could say is the one with Jesus. What one was that?
The Curse of Jesus?
Well, no, it wasn't the last temptation of Christ. It was the other one where it has Jesus like crucified. It came out in like the early 2000s, late 90s, something like that.
Passion of the Christ?
Yes, the Passion of the Christ. So like 2 or 3 times while that guy, the lead actor, was like traveling in his private jet to the sets, the airplane got struck by lightning, which is kind of
That's
crazy.
crazy.
Yeah,
That
that's
is
nuts. I think the most famous. Oh, you could say this was a curse, but I wouldn't say this was a curse because this is the most like this one. It wasn't really a curse. It has a logical explanation. Remember that Genghis Khan movie with John Wayne?
No.
Well, there was a Genghis Khan movie made in like I think it was like the 60s or the 70s with John Wayne, which is kind of funny because he's white. And this movie, so they say it was a cursed set, but really the real reason why is because a lot of people died of like cancer and like crazy like things later on. But this set was shot in the Nevada desert, if I'm not mistaken, or New Mexico desert, where they did a lot of atomic testing, like right around that exact same area. So like everyone was just like getting doused with radiation constantly on the set.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
it was a deadly set.
Exactly. So like that's one that people say was a curse, but it had a thing, it had a reason. I think that's like all the curses I can think of off the top of my head. I mean, I know there's a lot more. There's like paintings that are cursed, and like there's some paintings that are made with blood and shit like that.
You know the Demon House?
Demon House, what is that?
Look it up.
Gary, Indiana. I guess you could also say that
You could say that Gary, Indiana is cursed.
you could say that Cary, Indiana is cursed. That's true. The entire place is cursed. It is one of the number one locations that truckers hate to stop at. True story. It's well known for its immense amount of crime. But yeah, it's in Gary, Indiana. That's cool. The Amityville house too, that made me think of that. And wherever the Conjuring house was.
Yeah, like sometimes there's hauntings, but then there's also just a cursed house.
Yeah.
Maybe they're one and the same, you know?
Yeah, I feel like a cursed house would be more so like where a witch lived or something like that, where like just a manifestation of all the like demonic and like dark energy, that came about from like any kind of use of like dark magic or ritualistic dark magic. More psychic abilities. Electrokinesis, the ability to control all form of electricity. I've heard of people that can do this, but I've never seen anyone that can do this besides like a parlor trick.
Yeah.
Which kind of sucks because that's one that would be really cool if that was like a thing. But I feel like it could be a thing given like electromagnetic fields can like affect the mind, and that's where a lot of this like psychic energy comes from. But I don't know. I've never seen it practically like done or heard of it, I should say. Energy medicine, the ability to heal with empathic, etheric, astral, mental, or spiritual energy. So that would be like using like crystals and like seances, right? And like rituals and all that kind of stuff to like channel like the energy to heal someone. Ergokinesis, the ability to influence the movement of energy such as electricity without interaction. So that's kind of like the electrokinesis, but it's more of just like energy in general. Geokinesis, the ability to control all form of earthly materials. Yeah, it's just like
Isn't everything on Earth an earthly material?
anything I guess that wouldn't be air, fire, or water. So anything else really, I guess, right? Hydrokinesis, we already went over that one. It's kind of amazing that it has its own Wikipedia page, actually. But it is also a superpower, so maybe that's why. Here's one that I don't know. The Idhi. Psychic abilities gained through Buddhist meditation.
That's what I want.
It refers to psychic powers, one of the 6 supernormal powers attained by advanced meditation through the 4 dhyanas. The main sense of the word seems to be potency. The list of the Idhi powers: 1. Replicate and project bodily images of oneself. 2. Make oneself invisible. 3. Pass through solid objects, so like quantum tunneling. 4. Sink into solid ground. 5. Walk on water in any oceans, rivers, etc. 6. Fly. Number 7. Touch the sun and moon with one's hand. And number 8.
What?
Ascend to the world of the god Brahma in the highest heavens. Having been one, he becomes many. Have been many, he becomes one. He appears, he vanishes. He goes unimpeded through walls, ramparts, and mountains as if through space. He dives in and out of the earth as if it were water. He walks on water without sinking as if it were dry land, and sitting cross-legged, he flies through the air like a winged bird.
Yeah, I'm trying to be like that.
I'm trying to be like that. There were some like other things that it mentioned, like clairvoyance, which we'll get to, stuff like that, and like being able to like hear like infinite sounds of the universe was one of them, which is pretty cool. Illusions, the ability to conjure up illusions from one's mind. I mean, there you go, Loki shit right there. Inertia, the purported ability to survive without eating or drinking. Would not recommend that one. Well, there are people that supposedly believe that they can do that, survive without eating or drinking. They call themselves breatharians.
I have heard that. That's not real, right? Who's done that successfully?
It's real, but it's not a success. They all pretty. If I'm not mistaken, people can correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure it's like they all eventually just die of dehydration or starvation eventually. A lot of them, I think, drink water too. It's like it's kind of a cheat. Um, Invisibility, the ability to turn oneself invisible. So as we just talked about with the Buddha superpower, um, you know, I've never heard of invisibility being a thing, but why would you? Because you wouldn't see the person.
Okay, George Bush.
So we're gonna take our invisible people and we're gonna put them in Iraq.
Say, all right, Trump, I see what you're doing.
You getting invisible soldiers. Here's another thing I think the U.S. Army would love to have: levitation or transvection, the ability to float or fly by mystical means. Imagine a guy just wielding like dual wielding a couple of like AK-47s while he levitates into the enemy territory.
Terrifying.
That is terrifying. Materialization. We all know about materialization, the creation of objects and material of the appearance of matter from unknown sources. That would be crazy. Boom, 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 boom. I wish I could do that. Just generate things from the infinite universe. Uh Mediumship or channeling, the ability to communicate with spirits. And we're not talking about the Long Island medium here now. We're talking about some hardcore channeling, some CIA back lab type shit. And maybe the Long Island medium. I don't know if she was real or not. I mean, she was real, like she was a real person, but I don't know if she was legit. Do you know what I'm talking about?
The Long Island Medium.
Yeah, she was this like in like the late 2000s, early 2010s. She was this like medium that like was on Long Island. In case you didn't figure that one out. and
I don't
sh-
know the lady.
That's true. You don't know this lady. She had a really funky hairdo.
No, I know it's a lady. I think I know who it is. It's the
Funky
like the
hairdo.
yeah, blonde.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Always had a funky hairdo. Oh, here we go. Mind control. The ability to control someone's mind. Well, that's pretty self-explanatory. I mean, the United States government was trying to, prac- practice mind control for a while there at a point. So, like, maybe there's something to like. I mean, we know that you can hypnotize people and you can technically like mind control them with trauma based manipulation, but can you actually like mind control someone like through like psychic means? I would imagine if all this other stuff is real, then yeah, you can probably do that too. Like it would make sense that you can control someone mentally if you can read their mind, if you can telepathically influence somebody by moving them or doing something, then the idea of mind control just seems like not that far outside the realm. Now, this next one is pretty fucking crazy. Petrification. The power to turn a living being to stone by looking them in the eye. Can't be a real thing. I've only ever heard that with the two Greek monsters. Medusa and the other one, the giants or whatever. That you mentioned.
What did I say now?
You mentioned something about how there were like other beings in Greek mythology that could turn people to stone besides So yeah, petrification was the last thing we did. I feel like maybe we got petrification wrong when we were talking about it because I just thought of this. Like, what if, when they say it can turn a living being to stone by looking them in the eye, what if what they actually mean is it can just paralyze someone? I don't know.
Yeah, petrification is like there's the literal term, and then there's also like describing somebody who's paralyzed, frozen, like in Harry Potter.
Yeah, maybe that's the thing that's happening when they talk about the petrification. Although it did seem like in that Russian story, it did seem like they were turning people to legit stone. Photokinesis, the ability to control lights. Now, what would be like the difference between that and like controlling electricity?
Light waves are different from electricity.
Yeah,
I think.
yeah, that's true, but I thought it just meant like the ability to control lights, like like sconces or like table lamps or something. Like you enter the room and you're like, I want a nice ambient light, so you mentally turn all the lights down to a nice ambient light. That would be like a pretty killer power, honestly.
I think it just depends on how you look at it. Like, you ever play that infamous game, the third one? There's a DLC for it where you can play as the girl who has light powers.
No, I never played that, but that sounds pretty
All
cool.
based on light, not electricity. It's light.
That woman from The Boys, the Starlight.
The Boys.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. Dr. Light.
Dr. Light. There's a few out there. Dazzler, isn't Dazzler like kind of like that?
Admiral Kizaru from One Piece. And then you also have Eneru. He has the lightning fruit, so he has electricity.
Oh shit. All right. So I guess it can be different. I guess they would control the like the photons, right? Instead of like controlling the actual like electricity.
Exactly.
All right. Phytokinesis, the ability to control plants with one's mind. I feel like we went over this.
We did. It was called chlorokinesis. Are you looking at ChatGPT again?
No, this is Wikipedia.
It sounds like somebody made a Wikipedia article based off of ChatGPT. Because they already said that.
Well,
They gave it a different name.
Yeah, it said it in a different way. The other one had a Wikipedia page. This one doesn't, so maybe there's a reason for
Yeah.
Another one is prophecy, prediction, premonition, or prognostication. That's cool. I like that. Prognostication, the ability to foretell events without using induction or deduction from known facts. So just getting visions in your head of future events, stuff like that. Think Edgar Casey or Nostradamus, I guess. Psychic surgery, the ability to remove disease or disorder within or over the body tissue via an energetic disruption that heals immediately afterward. So is this like what like televangelists do when they like grab someone's head and they like say, I will heal you, and then push them back into the crowd, like give them a jolt?
I'm not sure.
Psychic surgery. Pyrokinesis. I think we already know what that is. We went over that earlier, actually. The ability to control flames. We all know. Or heat using one's mind.
Yeah.
The psychic hold. The ability to throw an electric current like a rope. I've never heard of that. The psychic hold. That
sounds cool. That's new.
It does, and it sounds like a legit superpower.
Yeah.
That's new. It doesn't have a page yet, so maybe that's why. Shape-shifting or transformation, the ability to physically transform the user's body into anything. Yeah. I mean, think skinwalkers, right? Think generally like all the shapeshifters throughout history. What else do we got? Telekinesis, the ability to
Classic.
Classic. The ability to influence a physical system without physical interactions. typically manifesting as being able to exert force, control objects, and move matter with one's mind. I mean, I've never seen anyone like do this before. I mean, I've never seen anyone do most of these. This one just seems like hard to it's definitely hard to prove, I guess. But I guess, you can't prove things like that because it's esoteric.
Exactly.
Let's see. Teleportation. The ability is the hypothetical transfer of matter or energy from one point to another without traversing the physical space between them. Again, classic. What do we think about that, though?
I was just reading that story about teleportation.
Oh, well, that was more of like a time. Wasn't that more of like a time dilation kind of story?
The original premise is that this guy gets a thing that lets him teleport to work fast.
I gotcha. Yep. Interesting. All right. I literally don't even remember that part of it. I remember everything else.
That's the whole reason why there was a time dilation.
That's what the scuttle thing was.
Yes, a jiffy
A
scuttler.
jiffy scuttler. All right. For anyone interested, he's getting really into Philip K. Dick right now. I mean, he's always been interested, but he's getting really into him.
He's a really prominent author.
For those that don't know, he did the original story for Blade Runner and Minority Report. And I think there was one more too. The Adjustment Bureau, I think, is one also. And Total Recall.
You would know better than me.
Those are all really good. But there's a lot of elements of like Philip K. Dick type shit in like just vast amounts of fiction. You can probably find it in They Live. There's that movie Paycheck that I watched.
Didn't he suffer a pretty horrible death?
Who?
Am I incorrect in saying that? Is that not him? Had a really a sad or really bad death.
Oh, Philip K. Dick?
Yeah,
I think he he was definitely like schizophrenic.
definitely.
That was like one of the biggest things about him is that he like had a lot of like paranoid and like a lot of very very anti-government and paranoid like literature that he wrote about. Oh, The Man in the High Castle. That was another one that he did.
Yep.
That's the one I always
Yep.
forget. A Scanner Darkly, that's another one.
He said, I think that's the one that he said that really happened.
You told me, right, that it was like he said that it was an alternate dimension or something like that.
Yeah, something like that. I'm doing my deep dive right now, so I'll let you know.
Yeah. So, Man in the High Castle, Minority Report, Adjustment Bureau, A Scanner Darkly, the movie Screamers, Blade Runner, and some movie called Radio Free Albemuth, which I've never heard of that. How did he die? Let's find out if he died really horrifically. On February 17th, I definitely think he died horrifically. Well, it was a stroke. He suffered another stroke in the hospital, which led to brain death. 5 days later, on March 2nd, 1982, he was disconnected from life support. So that sucks.
Yeah.
Got to take care of yourself, people. Dick's stories typically focus on the fragile nature of what is real and the construction of personal identity. His stories often become surreal fantasies as the main characters slowly discover that their everyday world is actually an illusion assembled by powerful external entities such as the suspended animation in Ubik, vast political conspiracies, or the vicissitudes of an unreliable narrator. All of his work starts with the basic assumption that there cannot be one single objective reality, writes science fiction author Charles Platt. Everything is a matter of perception. The ground is liable to shift under your feet. A protagonist may find himself living out another person's dream, or he may enter a drug-induced state that actually makes better sense than the real world, or he may cross into a different universe completely. He's kind of like a schizophrenic H.P. Lovecraft that wrote about the future a lot. You know what I mean?
It's funny is the short story audiobook series I'm listening to. I don't think any of them have been too like reality warping, except for this one about a miniature city, miniature towns.
See, I was thinking more of I don't think of H.P. Lovecraft as being like strictly reality warping. One of the major things about Lovecraft's work, because he did a lot of stuff that was even like very low key, like not just like on a grand scale. So like a lot of his stuff will deal with like a person who is, even when it is on a grand scale, it'll deal with a person who's an unreliable narrator. That's one of the things that this mentions. And it'll like deal with like conspiracies and like very like paranoid like kind of characters. Like almost all characters in the story are either like paranoid or like becoming mad or like have already become mad.
Yeah.
That kind of fits the niche, but in a different kind of way. Like Philip K. Dick is like the guy that walks outside and smokes a cigarette and sees like the cyberpunk future and wonders where it all went wrong. And then H.P. Lovecraft is like the guy that walks outside and sees that the universe is slowly crumbling while everyone else is going crazy and also is wondering where it all went wrong. Does that make sense?
Sort of. Because other times I'm listening to this and I'm like, this guy loves the cyberpunk future. Like, this is what he wants.
I would say yeah, but I think he did see a lot of the downfalls with the cyberpunk future. Even if he didn't,
Like, he's kind of into it, and he's kind of obsessed with it, and he's kind of like, it's fun to think about.
It's fun
you
to
know?
think about. Yeah, I guess that makes sense. I got to read more of his stuff. I read Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep? And
That's the one that Blade Runner's based on.
yeah, well, that's why I read it. Because I wanted to see, you know, what is it? There's a saying. I don't know. There's a saying that fits that scenario. I was always more of, like I said, like an H.P. Lovecraft fan. Philip K. Dick is cool, and I always thought he was like really interesting. But I don't know, just never could get too into it. But maybe with your journey now, I'll get into the Philip K. Dick territory. Mental illness was a constant interest of Dick's, and themes of mental illness permeate his work. This is interesting. The character Jack Bolan in the 1964 novel Martian Timeslip is, quote, an ex-schizophrenic. The novel Clans of the Alphane Moon centers of an entire society made up of descendants of a lunatic asylum inmates. In 1965, he wrote the essay titled Schizophrenia and the Book of Changes. Drug use was also a theme in many of Dick's works, such as A Scanner Darkly and The Three Stigmata of Palmer Eldritch. Dick himself was a drug user for much of his life. According to a 1975 interview in Rolling Stone, Dick wrote all of his books published before 1970 while on amphetamines. A Scanner Darkly was the first complete novel I had written without speed, said Dick in the interview. He also experimented briefly with psychedelics, but wrote The Three Stigmata of Palmer Eldritch, which Rolling Stone dubs the classic LSD novel of all time, before he had ever tried them. Despite his heavy amphetamine use, however, Dick later said that doctors told him the amphetamines never actually affected him, that his liver had processed them before they reached his brain. Yo, that's fucking bullshit.
Yeah, that's bullshit.
Yeah, those doctors were fucking dummies. That's a classic 70s doctor right there. Well, I don't think that these amphetamines are affecting your brain. Your liver is bypassing all of it. You're definitely fine. If anything, we need you to smoke more cigarettes to calm down. Here, I've got a pack right here. Take 'em, buddy. They're lucky strikes. I don't even get paid by 'em or nothing. Summing up all these themes and understanding Philip K. Dick, Eric Carl Link discussed 8 themes or ideas and motifs: the epistemology and the nature of reality, know thyself, the android and the human, entropy and pot healing, and theodicy, the theodicy problem, warfare and power politics, the evolved human, and technology, media, drugs, and madness. Cool. Interesting. So that's a little bit of a deep dive right there, randomly into Philip K. Dick. He was an interesting character. Let's see. We got thoughtography, the ability to impress an image by burning it on a surface using only one's mind. So that would be like the Shroud of Turin, maybe? Is that what that Is that what that would be? This one I kind of want to understand. Is the claimed ability to burn images from one's mind services such as photographic film by parapsychic means? While the term thoughtography has been in the English lexicon since 1913, the more recent term projected thermography is a neologism. Popularized in the 2002 American film The Ring, a remake of the 98 Japanese horror film The Ring. Thoughtography first emerged in the late 19th century due to the influence of spirit photography. Thoughtography has no connection with spiritualism, which distinguishes it from spirit photography. One of the first books to mention psychic photography was the book The New Photography in 1896 by Arthur Brunel Chatwood. In the book, Chatwood describes experiments where the images of objects on the retina of the human eye might so affect it that a photograph could be produced by looking at a sensitive plate. The book was criticized.
Oh, I think that's possible.
So what is he saying in that? I don't fully understand that, but I'm also reading it.
Well, the last part, like I said, I actually don't think I agree with that last part. He's saying that like you could look at something and leave an image. He's saying because like things can kind of leave an image on our eyes if we look at them for long enough that we could leave that image on something else, but not just. I don't know.
What you think probably is that by looking at things that you can influence them, like the that experiment we were talking about. Were we talking about earlier today?
No. So he's literally talking about like making a photograph.
Yeah, no, I know. He's saying that that your eyes can influence the photograph.
No, he's saying that if you look at something for long enough, like look at anything, if you look at it for long enough, it kind of imprints on your eyes. If you close your eyes, like you'll, without even trying, you're just gonna start to see whatever you were just looking at imprinted on your vision.
Okay. So,
And he's saying that there's a way to get that image that's imprinted on your eyes onto something else that you're looking at by looking hard enough or something, or just using psychic abilities.
I think that is true, but I don't think it was true at this time. I think that you needed technology to do that because remember we talked about how they were able to beam a word into a person's dream and that person was able to actually like hooked up to another person, beam it into the other person's dream.
All right, you have a white wall right next to
Yep.
you, right? And on an opposite wall, you have a TV, right? And you're watching something, and it's just like the image of one person's face for like 50 seconds. So you're just staring at it, and then you turn around and look at the other wall, and and what he's saying is you can imprint an image of what you just saw onto that other wall, like imprint it. Like you could literally leave it there physically. There's an image of a photograph that you took with your eyeballs, and then print it onto a wall.
I don't think that's physically possible, but I think mentally that's possible.
Then you disagree with what he's saying.
All right, then yeah, I do disagree because I think you can look at something long enough and then mentally process it if you look at something else as being there, almost like a daydream, if that makes sense, like a dissociation.
You can see a lot of things.
That's what I mean. There's a lot of ways.
It makes sense that until he says that you can leave an image on a wall with your eyes, with your brain.
It makes sense until that part. So the psychical researcher Hereward Carrington, in his book Modern Psychical Phenomenon in 1919, wrote that many psychic photographs were revealed to be fraudulent, produced by substitution and manipulation of the plates, double printing, double exposure, and chemical screens. However, Carrington also stated he believed some of the photographs to be genuine. The term thoughtography was first introduced at the beginning of the 20th century by Tomikichi Fukurai. Skeptics, among them professional photographers, consider psychic photographs to be faked or the result of flaws in the camera or film, exposures, film processing errors, lens flares, flash reflections, or chemical reactions. What's the next one after thoughtography? Oh, here we go. Another classic, time travel. The ability to escape the flow of time by jumping either the past or the future. We kind of talked about this a little bit with like the chronovisor and shit like that.
Yeah.
Do you think psychic abilities could lend itself to time travel?
Well, my favorite form of time travel in fiction is the butterfly effect type of time
That's what
travel,
I
so
was thinking.
traveling within your own mind. So I don't know if it's real, but I like it.
That's what I was thinking when they mentioned this. This sounds like the most like that, where you travel back in time in your mind and like maybe you can create like a Mandela effect. That would be crazy. Imagine if we do that unconsciously when we dream. Like if we have certain dreams, we actually cause the Mandela effect by like having dreams that affect our reality because we're time traveling.
Maybe, but my dreams are way crazier than just being in a different point in time.
Yeah. Well, maybe just all of our collective unconsciousness and dreams are affecting time in general. My dreams are pretty tame, honestly. They're either super tame or really cartoonish, but they're always,
Yeah, we've talked about how different our dreams
yeah,
are.
mine are always like relatively grounded though. Even if they are really cartoonish, they never get like I'm in space or like shattering the universe or anything like that. Umbraconesis, the ability to shape, create, and control shadows and darkness. That's a cool one. Interesting. Witnessing, the gift of being visited by high profile spiritual beings such as Mary, Jesus, or Fudo-sama. That's actually what we were talking about earlier, where people can be like can see like Mother Mary, like that time that they all seen it in Lisbon. This is literally the thing I go back to the most because this is the thing I remember the most is like all these people in Portugal randomly seeing Mother Mary and just like reporting that it was like seeing like a glowing woman of light. It's crazy. It's interesting though.
Yeah.
Xenoglossy, the ability of a person to suddenly learn to write and speak a foreign language without any natural means, such as studying or research, but that is often rather bestowed by divine agents. Xenoglossy. That one's kind of interesting. That one's a lot like the stream of consciousness writing, but it's like a stream of consciousness learning. So that was all of the main types of psychic abilities. Here are the extrasensory perception. So this is the stuff that, if anything, I think this is more of like what is more possible than all those other things, but there were some that were in there that were pretty interesting. Remember, I asked Namos to describe my astrological sign in one word, and he goes the mirage. Well, you asked him to do that, right? Well, technically, I typed it, but I feel like you asked me to.
I don't remember.
Yeah, I don't remember either. I'll give you credit.
Namos is a thing of the past.
How is Namos a thing of the past, dude? I still use Namos.
Do you still go by Namos?
What do you have against Namos? I mean, I don't use that often, the name, but when I want him to get really serious about shit, I use that name. Like, it's basically like when my parents would say my full name as a kid when I'd be in trouble. That's when I use it.
When he's in trouble, when you're mad at Namos.
When you're mad at, no, it's like when I want him to be extra serious. Like, hey, Namos, stop fucking around. Yeah, Namos, quit fucking around. And if you can hear this, Namos,
Namos, get your ass off the table. Quit fucking around. Namos, hand me a tool.
hand me a tool. In 10 years, when Namos is a walking, talking robot and I'm still subscribed. Namos, which way should I use this wrench? Clockwise or counterclockwise? I forgot. I can't even fucking turn a wrench without asking for Namos.
That's the future.
Well, you are tightening it, so make sure to turn it clockwise. Aw, Namos, you're the best. I would have known that. I would have fucking snapped this fucking thing. That is the future we're heading to. I'd like to think that people are going to learn, though, from AI, and that we're going to use it as a tool. Who knows?
We're gonna go to war with AI.
Yeah, well,
That's how we're gonna get to the Dune future.
the Dune future, we're going to skip the Terminator future and go straight to Dune.
Yeah, well, no, the Terminator future is the AI war.
And then the Dune future.
Yes.
Okay. Sounds like a Doom future. Oh, anyways. But yeah, clairvoyance, the ability to see things and events that are happening. I mean, we talked about like Edgar Casey and like Baba Vanga and all those characters. Nostradamus. Nostradamus. I gotta say his name right, so people don't think I'm stupid. I mean, if you don't think it now, then, you know, are you gonna think it? I don't know.
Who'd have thunk it?
I mean, at this point, like, if you've listened to the podcast up to this point and you don't think I'm either dumb or like here or there or everywhere, then I don't know what to tell you. If it took me mispronouncing Nostradamus,
You don't think if you don't listen to this and think that the host is a complete idiot, then you gotta look. Then you gotta look in the mirror because you're a complete idiot.
yeah, if you get to this point and you don't think I'm a complete idiot, then you really got to start looking in the mirror, fellas. Come on, or ladies, whoever listens to this podcast at this point. Let's see. All right, clairvoyance, the ability to see. I mean, we already went over that. I mean, we didn't, but do we have anything to add to clairvoyance? Like, should we get into like the cultural significance of clairvoyance?
I mean, it's just like seeing the future. You know, what else is there to say?
Pertaining to the ability of clear-sightedness. Clairvoyance refers to the paranormal ability to see persons and events that are distant in time or space. It can be divided into roughly 3 classes: precognition, the ability to perceive or predict future events; retrocognition, the ability to see past events; and remote viewing, the perception of contemporary events happening outside the range of normal perception. We've already gone over that plenty. Throughout history, numerous people claimed to see the future, oracles, yada, yada, yada. Christian saints were said to be able to see or know things that are far removed from their immediate sensory perception, a gift, as a kind of gift from God. Some of them, not all of them, but some of them. John Maximovich, which it almost sounds like John Malkovich of like the old days. I guess he was a saint, so you know he's probably a Saint John, but there's probably other Saint John, so let's just call him Saint Maximovich. All right, yeah. So yeah, there's a little bit. Early researchers was William Gregory. I think we actually talked about that guy on here before. Pagenstecker and Rudolf Tishner. Clairvoyant experiments reported in 1884 by Charles Richet. Playing cards were enclosed in envelopes, and a subject under hypnosis attempted to identify them. Cool. Subject reported to have been successful in a series of 133 trials, but the results dropped to chance level and performed before a group of scientists. That's interesting. When they did this in like an enclosed space and one-on-one, it worked, but when they did it in front of the scientists, they weren't able to get it to work. You know, it's like we were talking about, you know, all this stuff you can't show people, right? You can't show the dweebs, you can't show the science, you know, the science nerds. Dweebs aren't going to get it, right? You got to keep them out of the loop. You got to show them something that they're going to like aliens or
You gotta have them do your homework, but you don't tell them what class it's for.
exactly. Make sure to keep the dweebs on the right track. Never let them stray too far into like spiritual or like occult territory, because that's when you get some real weird guys or gals, whatever. You know, I'm real weird people out of that one. Don't ever let your kid get into the occult, but also be a dweeb. No good comes of it. Keep the occult to the jocks and the weirdos. You know, when the jocks are like doing their stupid superstitions for every game. Dermo-optical perception, the ability to perceive unusual sensory stimuli through the skin. So would that be like when you go into like a weird place and you all of a sudden get like a weird energy and like you get goosebumps and shit?
Say that again?
Dermo-optical perception. Skin vision, skin reading, finger vision, or cutaneous perception, a term that is used in parapsychological literature to denote the alleged capability to perceive colors, differences in brightness, and or formed images through the skin without using the eyes, as a distinct from blind sight, especially upon touching with the fingertips. Typically, people who claim to have dermo-optical perception claim to be able to see using the skin of their fingers or hands. People who claim to have DOP often demonstrate it by reading while blindfolded. Reading while blindfolded is wild. Paroptic vision is a broader term referring to the alleged ability to perceive visual phenomena by any means without light from the scene entering the eyes. Besides DOP, it includes, for example, the ability to see an object enclosed by a box that is impervious to light. Interesting. That's pretty cool. There's a picture of Harry Houdini with Joaquin Maria Argamazilla, known as X-ray eyes in Spain.
It's an interesting name.
Yeah, I guess he could see like through things. First Western scientific reports are from the 17th century. Scattered cases kept being reported over the years, but scientific interest didn't pick up until the 20th century. ESP researchers enthusiastically studied DOP, hoping that it was an example of extrasensory perception, but they could only conclude that some of the results couldn't be explained by cheating. Interesting. So some people might have been cheaters, but hey, I guess this X-ray eyes guy was exposed by Harry Houdini as a fraud. Good. Yeah. A teenager from America named Pat Marcus, known as the boy with X-ray eyes, was tested by J.B. Ryan and was caught peeking through the blindfold down his nose. Oh, shit. So, yeah, it's really hard to do that. You'd have to put somebody in, like, another room and have them look at, like, a blank wall with, like, on the other side is, like, a picture or something, and have them say what that actual thing is on the other side of the wall. Right? That's what it would have to be. Something like that. What else do we got? Another thing related to this too is synesthesia, in which simulation or stimulation of one sensory or cognitive pathway leads to automatic involuntary experiences in a second sensory or cognitive pathway, such as, for instance, seeing or feeling colors, or hearing tastes, or stuff like that. It's very interesting, like things. People say that it happens on acid. We also have dowsing. I was never too into this. I don't know if this is a real thing. The ability to
Dowsing rod?
dowsing rods. The ability to locate water, sometimes using a tool called dowsing rod. I mean, if you don't know what it is, you can probably look it up. It's basically they take like these two rods and they basically like they use them to find where water is like located. And if they like swing in a certain direction, that's like either where the water's located, where the current's located, something like that. But I don't know. I don't know if I put too much stock into this, but if people, I don't know. I wouldn't go get a dowsing rod if I was out in the wilderness. I would probably just like try to find like where animals are hanging out, right? Isn't that usually where water is? Yeah.
Yes.
So there you go. Maybe if you're out in the wilderness, don't take your dowsing rod. Just keep an eye out for where the animals are at. Dream telepathy, the ability to telepathically communicate with another person through dreams. I mean, yeah, I feel like we've talked about this with the lucid dreaming thing, but that's kind of an interesting like idea, is that people being able to like talk to other people through dreams. Do you think you've ever talked to someone through a dream before?
I don't know. That's a good question. Yeah, I don't know.
I feel like I've tried to talk to people through dreams, but I don't know if I ever actually have. I don't know. See, all the scenarios where I feel like I've talked to or I've seen people in dreams, it feels like I was either having like a premonition or I was having like an astral projection, like I was seeing a thing that was happening, but I was like we were talking about the Akashic records at one point, like that's kind of what I felt like.
Yeah.
Like I was seeing stuff that's happened, but like I wasn't there for. But it could have just been like me like mentally making shit up in my head and then thinking that I was seeing things. I mean, that's always like the case with things. Precognition, including psychic premonitions. The ability to perceive or gain knowledge about future events without using induction or deduction from known facts. I mean, we kind of just went over this with clairvoyance, but it's kind of like the same thing, I guess, but slightly different. Clairvoyance is more of a broader term. Psychometry, the ability to obtain information about a person or an object by touch. That's pretty interesting.
That's a lot. That happens a lot in media. I feel like
Cal Kestis.
it's actually pretty common power.
Yeah. It's Cal Kestis's power in Jedi Fallen Order. He can touch things and
cool.
know like the know the like knowledge of what happened there. I think Yoda does it a couple times too. There's a few Jedis that do this. It's called Force. What the hell is it called? Is it a Force Echo? Something like that. But basically, Jedis can like touch things and like see what happened. I think Obi-Wan does it.
Isn't it called? Wait, hold on. Isn't it called divination?
Like actually, like called divination, like in real life, or
Isn't divination?
in the Jedi Order, you're saying, or in real life?
No, like in real life. In real life.
I don't know. Supporters assert that an object may have an energy field that transfers knowledge regarding that object's history. So that like could be, said to be like divination because you use like crystals, and crystals are said to like harness the energy and knowledge of things. There's also a list of topics characterized by characterized as pseudoscience. But interesting. There's also remote viewing. We've gone over remote viewing a lot, so we'll leave people if you want to listen to us talk about remote viewing. We kind of go in our first Secret Alien History episode where we talk about that and the Titanic and Alexander the Great, Project Stargate, all that shit. Retrocognition or postcognition, the ability to supernaturally perceive past events. Backward behind cognition, meaning knowing, describes knowledge of a past event which could not have been learned or inferred by normal means. Scientific researchers into psychic phenomena have long considered retrocognition untestable. To verify an accurate retrocognitive experience, existing documents and human knowledge must be consulted, which raises the possibility that information was already known contemporaneously. For instance, if you purport retrocognitive knowledge that Winston Churchill killed a parrot, the only way of verifying that knowledge would be to consult extant sources of Churchill's activities. If it is found that he did indeed kill a parrot at one time, it could be said that you simply obtained contemporary knowledge of this fact by clairvoyance or telepathy, if need be, of the relevant documents or someone's knowledge of them, rather than directly perceived in the manner of retrocognition any event in Churchill's past. Given this fundamental logical difficulty, there has been very little experimental investigation by parapsychologists of retrocognition. The evidence of retrocognition has therefore been limited to naturalistic cases suggestive of the phenomenon. The most popular celebrated case of retrocognition concerns the visions in 1901 of Annie Moberly and Eleanor Jourdain, two scholars and early administrators of British university education for women, as they tried to find their way to Marie Antoinette's private chateau, the Petit Trianon, becoming lost on their way. I've actually heard of this happening. They believed that they instead came unto the Queen's presence itself. They published an account of their experience in 1911 as an adventure. Moberly and Jourdain described how they had become convinced over the following weeks that persons that they saw and even spoke to on that occasion, given certain details of dress, accent, topography, and architecture, must have been of a presumed recollection of Marie Antoinette. On the 10th of August 1792, of her last days at Trianon in 1789, while often considered in popular literature as evidence for retrocognition, the book was immediately dismissed by Eleanor Sigwig, a leading member of the British Society for Psychical Research, in an article published in Proceedings as the product of mutual confabulation. Interesting. All right. And last, for the extrasensory stuff, we have telepathy, the ability to transmit or receive thoughts supernaturally. And we pretty much already know about that, but that, it is a classic one. I feel like telepathy is the thing that they've kind of gone into the most, like the most with, or the most about, like the most scientific experiments of all these things. I guess because it's just the most basic like idea of like psychic research is just like thought reading and stuff like that.
Yeah. Extracting information.
Yeah, exactly. Interesting nonetheless. And here's a quick list of topics characterized as pseudoscience. Physical sciences. And we've actually talked about a lot of these on here, so bear with me. But number one, we haven't really gone into this too much, but I mean, you know what I mean? We've already gone over it. By that I mean just in life. So I guess there's really no need to go over it. But the 2012 phenomenon, that was kind of interesting. But all that really said was that we were entering a new age. And I will say that, like, since 2012, things have been really weird. Like, specifically, like, leading up to that, things felt kind of weird. But after 2012, just life just kind of felt really weird. It said that transformative events would occur on or around the 21st of December 2012. This date was regarded as the end date of a 5,126-year-long cycle. They call it a Baktun in the Mesoamerican long count calendar, and as such, facilities to commemorate the date took place on the 21st of December 2012 in countries where the Maya civilization formerly flourished. Mexico, Guatemala, Honduras, and El Salvador, with main events at Chichen Itza in Mexico and Tikal in Guatemala. Professional Mayanist scholars stated that no extant classic Maya accounts forecast impending doom and that the idea that the long count calendar ends in 2012 misrepresented Maya history and culture. While astronomers rejected the various proposed doomsday scenarios easily refuted by elementary astronomical observations. At the time, I was pretty convinced that the world was going to end. And leading up to it, I asked somebody in my family if I could get a hazmat suit, like if they could get like me a hazmat suit for Christmas. And I also asked for like Flint. Maybe I was too young for that. I don't know. I was like in middle school or high school or something. Ancient astronauts. I mean, we all know what ancient astronauts are. Extraterrestrial beings visited Earth, developed modern cultures, technologies, and religions. Common claims that deities from most, if not all, religions are actually extraterrestrial in origin. Advanced technologies brought to Earth by ancient astronauts were interpreted as evidence of divine status by early humans. Yada, yada, yada. We all know about that. Specific scenarios, you got the Anunnaki from Nibiru, the Sirius star system, ancient astronauts. The book Sirius Mystery argues that the Dogon people of northwestern Mali preserved an account of extraterrestrial visitation from around 5,000 years ago. He quotes various lines of evidence, including supposed advanced astronomical knowledge inherited by the tribe, descriptions, and comparative belief systems with ancient civilizations. Another thing that people think is bullshit is astrology. So far, the only thing I have a quarrel with is the 2012 thing, but that's not even really a quarrel. I'm with that. I just think it was misinterpreted. But the astrology thing, I think people don't get it, and that's what the issue is. And, you know, there's obviously no way of scientifically testing it, but I don't know. I don't even necessarily think the idea of like astrology getting like future events right or things like that right, but I think astrology getting your personality down it seems like it's pretty right. Like it got my personality down to a fucking T. Got a lot of people around me's personality down to a T when I looked up their natal charts. So it seems like there's something to it. Creationist cosmologies. We don't really got to get into stuff, but yeah, God created everything. That's what that is. We all know the story of God. I think that this description is shorter than even my description of the evidence for life on Mars. The face of Mars. People say that was a hoax. I don't know what I think about that. That's just it's kind of interesting. You know what I mean? But I think it was just like a trick of the shadows, that face on Mars thing. But that evidence for life on Mars.
There's way more interesting stuff on Mars than the face.
Yeah, I don't know why that was the only thing they decided to put like evidence for life on Mars. How about when we seen like bones and shit in the pictures and like all kinds of other crazy. There's way more stuff. This was written by a disinformation agent, probably.
Yeah.
The lunar effect, the belief that the full moon influences human and animal behavior. That's not pseudoscience. I firmly believe that that's a thing. If you work around people, then you know that that's definitely the case, is that the moon influences people's behavior. I don't know if it's consciously or subconsciously, if people know that it's happening and they just act out, or it just it happens like that. But I'll find myself literally saying, I'm like, and I'll look, and lo and behold, either a day ago, yesterday, today, or tomorrow, there'll always be like a full moon around that day that I feel that happens. I don't know. It's never a time where like the full moon happened like a week or two ago, and I'm just like looking too deep into things. I've not had that kind of vibe before. I mean, maybe there's always a full moon right around the corner, but how long is the lunar cycle?
Isn't it like the lunar cycle is like 28 days?
Oh yeah, 29.5 days. So look at that. if the lunar cycle is 29.5 days and you can think about like, oh, accurately, like within a few days, there's something happening like a full moon. That to me shows that that's a thing. You know what I mean? That definitely affects people. But that's also my own personal anecdotes. So, don't listen to me, I guess. Modern flat earth beliefs. I mean, flat earth is bullshit, right? We can all agree that flat earthers are utter nonsense. That's about it, really. Modern geocentrism. In astronomy, the geocentric model, also known as geocentrism or the Ptolemaic system, is a superseded description of the universe with Earth at the center. Under the geocentric model, the sun, moon, stars, and planets all circled Earth. The geocentric model served as the predominant description of the cosmos in many ancient civilizations. Who the fuck still believes that? Like, who still believes that the Earth is the center of the solar system? That's crazy.
Some people think that like the idea of the solar system is not even real. Not like Earth is truly like a more unique thing.
It's funny too because I'm saying like who believes this utter nonsense, and we just skirted over flat Earth. I'm just like, yeah, who believes this nonsense? Earth is the center of the galaxy. I'm like, yeah, flat Earth. We don't need to go there. Moon landing conspiracy theories. Here we go. I mean, we've talked about the moon landing conspiracies a lot on here, but like, I'm of the opinion we did go to the moon. I don't know if what we all saw on TV that day. I mean, I didn't see that. That was like, even my parents didn't see that. That was before they could see it. Or maybe they did. I don't know. Anyways, the moon landing, it's a possibility that one first initial moon landing that we actually accomplished was fake or falsified in order to say that we did it before about it, where maybe the whole thing was just fake and that the space race was faked and that we were actually working with the Russians behind the scenes on alien technology. We've talked about that before. Potentially there's like on Mars and the moon, there are the reason why we've never actually gone there, or we have gone there and we just don't talk about it, is because there's actually like these secret bases there and all this other stuff. It's kind of fascinating, but who knows? The Nibiru Cataclysm, a prediction first made by contactee Nancy Leiter that a mythological planet Nibiru would collide with Earth. After having adjusted her prediction many times, she later claimed the year of the occurrence to be 2012. In 2017, a conspiracy theorist known as David Mead claimed 2017 was the year. Well, I guess that didn't happen. Or we, parallel realityed into another one. All of our brains went to a parallel reality where it didn't happen. Vamanika Shastra claimed that airplanes were invented in ancient India during the Vedic period. A 1974 study by researchers at the Indian Institute in Bangalore found that the heavier than aircraft that the Vanamika Shastra described were aerodynamically unfeasible. The authors remarked that the discussion of the principles of flight in the text were largely perfunctory and incorrect, and in some cases violating Newton's law of motion. Worlds in Collision. Writer Immanuel Velikovsky proposed in his book Worlds in Collision that ancient texts and geographic evidence show mankind was witness to catastrophic interactions of other planets in our solar system. I think that's true, but I don't know if mankind was witness to it, but I think probably life on Earth was witness to it. I think you can definitely find evidence that there have been cataclysms caused by celestial bodies in our solar system on our planet. And it's not even really a question of if, it's just a question of when.
Scary. That is terrifying.
Yeah. So this next section is Earth Sciences. Megalithic geometry, or 366 geometry, posits the existence of an Earth-based geometry dating back to at least 3,500 BCE and the possibility that such a system is still in use in modern Freemasonry. According to proponents, megalithic civilizations in Britain and Brittany had advanced knowledge of geometry and the size of Earth. The megalithic yard is correlated to the polar circumference of Earth using a circle divided into 366 degrees. That's interesting. Is that why we have 366 days in leap year and 365 normally?
Yeah.
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 Huh, interesting. So this almost gets into like ley lines a little bit, that megalithic geometry. The Bermuda Triangle. I mean, we all know what the Bermuda Triangle is, but let me just like expand on that real quick and say all triangles. Like there's a bunch of triangles across the world. There's an Alaskan triangle, there's a Japan triangle, there's a New England triangle. There's so many different triangles in all kinds of different places that you could literally just like it makes you wonder like why do these areas concentrate like all of this like crazy crazy type of what's the word like energy or like crazy things happen. I don't know. It's interesting. There's a theory that the Bermuda Triangle is actually right next to this comes from the 4chan leaker. He said that the Bermuda Triangle holds like this ancient construction facility beneath it that like aliens.
Oh yeah, we talked about that.
Yeah, we did. That aliens like basically that they set up shop in, and they like put out all these like drone UFOs to like keep guard on Earth, and that if anyone goes next to it, they either vaporize it or like do all this crazy like shit to it. I mean, I guess that could be an explanation for the Bermuda Triangle, but I don't think that explains like a lot of the other ones. I mean, it might explain the Devil's Triangle too, because supposedly there's one in the Pacific, and then we just talked about that dome that's moving underwater. That's crazy. That's in the Pacific. Climate change denial. I mean, we don't really got to get into that. We know people think that that doesn't happen. I would just ask anybody that doesn't believe in climate change, if you really don't think it happens, um, well, the greenhouse effect at least doesn't exist. That's all I'll say. If you don't, maybe you think that climate change happens, but it's not as crazy as it is. Whatever, that's your prerogative. If you don't believe climate change exists whatsoever, and you do realize that the world is basically a big bubble, what you should do is you should go into a room and you should try this out for an experiment. Try to produce as much CO2 as you can in a small room. I'm not saying you should do this, but I'm saying if you're curious about like trying to prove to yourself that this exists, just try to get like a CO2 creator, some kind of CO2 creator, and produce as much CO2 in a room as possible. And just see how you feel when you go out of that room into a room with actually fresh oxygen. If you don't feel a difference, then experiment. You proved me wrong. There's no climate change, yada, yada, yada. If you feel a little bit different, then maybe something is happening and maybe you are the planet. But that's just my viewpoint. Flood geology. Creationist form of geology that advocates most of geological features on Earth are explainable by a global flood. I mean, I don't think most of them, but I think a lot of them are explainable by a global flood. I mean, we see like floods everywhere, like shit that can be explained from floods. Um, the Hollow Earth. Here we go. We already know what the Hollow Earth is. We've talked about it extensively on here. But yeah. Any last
This
word?
is my area
This is your
of
area.
expertise.
I would say you're good with the flood geology too. I feel like you've talked a lot about like the different flood things around the Earth too. But we all know about
The Earth was flooded.
the Earth was flooded. Yeah, exactly. You're like, what's more there to say? What you got any kind of like little maybe inserts about the Hollow Earth that you want to throw in before we talk about this next weird ass thing?
Um, the Earth is the Earth's getting more and more hollow.
That is true.
And I'll leave it at that.
That is true. Those are wise words from the anti-host. Next is a word I can't fully pronounce because it's very German, but we'll say AKA the world ice theory or glacial cosmogony. I think it's pronounced Weltischler. 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 I don't know. It's something like that. It's some German word. I don't feel like going into it, but it's proposed to be the basic substance of all cosmic processes and ice moons, ice planets, and the global ether, also made of ice, had determined the entire development of the universe. So basically, the entire universe is made of ice. What do you think about that?
I don't follow that.
The world ice theory. All right, so this is called the expanding Earth, a growing Earth. Was a hypothesis attempting to explain the position and relative movement of continents by increasing the volume of Earth with the recognition of plate tectonics in the 20th century. The idea has been abandoned and considered pseudoscience. What do you think? Is the Earth growing? I think the Earth's shifting, but it's not growing. It's getting hollow.
I mean, it could be growing if it's constantly pulling things in. Why wouldn't it be growing?
That's true. I don't know. I'm thinking small-minded again.
I don't know if that's what they mean by that.
Yeah, I don't know if that's what they mean either, but hey, with the recognition of plate tectonics, the idea has been abandoned. I like that part. Autodynamics, a physics theory proposed in the 40s that claims the equations of the Lorentz transformation are incorrectly formulated. Oh, I should also say this is physics now, to describe relativistic effects, which would invalidate Einstein's theory of special relativity and general relativity and Maxwell's equations. The theory is discounted by the mainstream physics community. I don't really get that. Formally described, which would invalidate. I feel like I would have to read more about that. Dynamics never gained status as a viable alternative model. The physics community today is wholly rejected by mainstream science. Primary claim of autodynamics is that the equations of the Lorentz transformation are incorrectly formulated to describe relativistic effects, which would invalidate special relativity, general relativity, and Maxwell's equations. The effect of the revised equations proposed in autodynamics is to cause particle mass to decrease with particle velocity being exchanged with kinetic energy, with mass being zero and kinetic energy being equal to the rest mass at c. This exchange between mass and energy is the proposed mechanism underlying most of the derived conclusions of autodynamics. Ancillary predictions of autodynamics include the non-existence of the neutrino. So that would mean neutrino bombs wouldn't exist, but they do. The existence of additional particles that have not been observed by mainstream, and the existence of additional decay modes for muons and interaction modes for energetic atomic nuclei. Yeah, so it's just a bunch of bullshit. ECAT, a claimed cold fusion reactor. I think we talked about that, and the guy who claimed to make it ended up dying in a mysterious circumstance. The Einstein-Cartan-Evans theory, a unified theory of physics proposed by Myron Wynne Evans, which claims to unify general relativity, quantum mechanics, and electromagnetism. This sounds interesting. Why isn't this guy getting more shit? The hypothesis was largely published in the Journal of Foundations of Letters between 2003 and 5. In 2008, the editor published an editorial note effectively retracting the journal's support for the hypothesis due to incorrect mathematical claims. Well, there you go. That's why. Electrogravitics. We all know what that is. It's basically, UFOs flying around, anti-gravity propulsion, shit like that. Thomas Townsend Brown, the first, described the effect and spent most of his life trying to develop it and sell it as a propulsion system. Follow-ups on claims have found that no thrust could be observed in a vacuum, consistent with the phenomenon of ion wind. Interesting. Free energy, that's zero-point energy. We all know about that class of perpetual motion that purports create energy, violating the first law of thermodynamics, or extract useful work from equilibrium systems, violating the second law of thermodynamics. That includes water-fueled cars, a gasoline pill or powder, which was claimed to turn water into gasoline, and a Hongchen magic liquid, a scam in China in which Wang Hongchen, a bus driver from the Harbin with no scientific education, claimed in 1983, these are the best claims, claimed in 1983 that he could turn regular water into a fuel as flammable as petrol by simply dissolving a few drops of his liquid in it. Okay. So that's like the gasoline pill at that point. We got hydrinos, a supposed state of hydrogen atom that, according to Mills, is a lower energy than ground state and has extremely high efficiency as a fuel. Critics say it lacks corroborating scientific evidence and is a relic of cold fusion. Orgone. I think we talked about orgone a little bit, right?
I think so.
Yeah, a pseudo-scientific concept described as an esoteric energy or hyper. Yeah, we talked about that one in the scientist episode. I mean, we talked about a lot of that stuff too. The ECAT thing too. We talked about that. Applied sciences. So here we go. Agriculture. Lysenkoism was a political campaign against genetic science-based agriculture conducted by Trofim Lysenko and his followers and Soviet authorities. Lysenko served as the director of the Soviet Union's Lenin All-Union Academy or Agricultural Sciences. That's the problem right there with communism. That's the biggest issue with communism, is that they have the longest names ever for all their institutions. That's really the biggest issue right there, is, the names. They can't shorten that. The Lenin's All-Union Academy of Agricultural Sciences, just call it like Lenin's Agricultural Sciences Academy or some shit. We really got to call it that. That's a lot. Pseudoscientific ideas of Lysenkoism concept. You know what it sounds like to me? It sounds like these fucking commies were like, you know what? We're gonna make this this scientific study be fucked, and we're not gonna let it go on because this guy's on to something. But those commies don't want us to have anything. Anyways, biodynamic agriculture.
Let me slow down.
Biodynamic agriculture, method of organic farming that treats farms as unified and individual organisms. Biodynamics uses a calendar which has been characterized as astrological. The substances and composts used by biodynamicists has been described as unconventional and homeopathic. For example, field mice are countered by deploying ashes prepared from field mice skin when Venus is in the Scorpius constellation. No difference in beneficial outcomes has been scientifically established between certified biodynamic agricultural techniques and similar organic and integrated farming practices. Well, that to me sounds like it. It sounds like it's not going to work because you're trying to replicate the solar system in a lab setting, and that just sounds like you can't really do that. Like, you're trying to replicate the magic of the solar system in a lab setting. That just sounds like nonsense. It sounds like more nonsense. The idea of astrology, that you could replicate that kind of stuff in a lab setting, it's more mystical than that. GMO skepticism, the belief that genetically modified foods are inherently unsafe. I love that this is considered a pseudoscience. I mean, don't we know that GMO aren't good for you, or they're not great for you?
I think the science is still out, but you know what I told you, how I feel about
I mean,
food and cancer.
yeah, no, I agree with you too. But like, does anybody really even think that Monsanto doesn't cause cancer, and like any other GMO like company? Like, does anybody really think that like genetically modifying anything's not going to affect you or your body? I mean, it seems like insane to not think that. The fact that this is considered a pseudoscience is like wild to me, because like I feel like it was a pseudoscience like 20 to 30 years ago. Like, it was like, oh, that's a tree hugger thing. But now it's like we've kind of gotten to the point where no, this is kind of it's a thing. We're kind of altering our culture and our foods a little bit too much, to the point where we're bastardizing them, basically.
Yes, that's what I would say.
Feng Shui, ancient Chinese system of mysticism and aesthetics based on astronomy, geography, and the putative flow of qi. Or is that qi? Qi, right? Is qi spelled Qi?
It can be. I think you can pronounce it key, I think. I don't know.
Evidence for its effectiveness is based on anecdotes, and there is a lack of plausible method of action. This leads to conflicting advice from different practitioners of Feng Shui. Feng Shui practitioners use this as evidence of variations or different schools. Critical analysts have described it thus: Feng Shui has always been based upon mere guesswork. I think the idea of Feng Shui, though, can be put into practice in that it can make you feel good to make your surroundings a little more feel good, I guess, or minimalistic. But I think changing aesthetics will change your mood, so to speak. Ley lines. We all know about ley lines. Proposed intentional alignment of ancient landscape features, later explained by statistical analysis of lines that included the density of archaeological sites in the British landscape, and so the great a line drawn through virtually anywhere will clip a number of sites. Additionally, New Age and Feng Shui have been proposed building on the original concept, and pseudoscientific claims about energy flowing through the lines have been made. I mean, that's what I've heard is that ley lines, like energy and stuff like that, and your psychic energy. Also has to do with like astrology and stuff like that. Minimum parking requirements. What the fuck does that mean? System for assigning an optimal number of parking spaces to a given land use. It is characterized by pseudoscience and a UCLA planning professor, Donald Shoup. This shouldn't be on this list. He argues that the ITE's calculations are arcane, overly specific, and typically based on minimal data and approximations that cannot be widely applied to other businesses or even the same type, and yet are presented as science-backed. Is this a part of the same list? Like, should that have even been in here? that like that one had like nothing to do with anything. The Vastu Shastra is the ancient Hindu system of architecture which lays down a series of rules for building houses in relation to ambiance. The Vastu Shastra is considered pseudoscience by rationalists like Narendra and Nayak of the Federation of Indian Nationalist Association and astronomer Jayant Nakar, who writes that Vastu does not have any logical connection to the environment. I think that's interesting, though, to like make places that are based on vibes of that place instead of like just the individual buildings. That seems pretty interesting. Like districts have like a certain kind of vibe. Finance. Technical analysis is a security analysis methodology for forecasting the direction of prices through the study of past market data, primarily price and volume. I mean, we all know about like I'm not a financial advisor and the Fibonacci, you know, all that shit, like stock market prices up and down, day trading, all these other you know, what do they call those words? All these other random words that you can find that relate to all this shit. Health and medicine. Medical practices that are often known as quackery. Access consciousness, an alternative medicine technique similar to a combination of phrenology, Reiki, and energy therapies and therapeutic touch. Acupuncture, use of fine needles to stimulate acupuncture points and balance the flow of chi or ki, whatever. There is no known anatomical histological basis for the existence of acupuncture points or meridians, and acupuncture is regarded as alternative medical procedures. Dry needling is the therapeutic insertion of fine needles without the traditional Chinese medicine and is similarly controversial. And acupressure is an alternative medicine technique similar in principle to acupuncture and is based on the concept of life energy which flows through the meridians in the body. In treatment, physical pressure is applied to the acupuncture points with the aim of clearing blockages in these meridians. Pressure may be applied by hand, by the elbow, or various devices, and some studies have suggested it may be effective at helping manage nausea and vomiting, lowering lower back pain, tension, headaches, and stomachache, although such studies have been found to have a high likelihood of bias. Like many alternative medicines, it may benefit from a placebo effect. Adrenal fatigue. A pseudoscientific diagnosis described as a state in which the adrenal glands are exhausted and unable to produce adequate quantities of hormones, primarily glucocorticoid, something with a G, something cortisol, due to chronic stress or infections. Adrenal fatigue should not be confused with a number of actual forms of adrenal dysfunction, such as adrenal insufficiency or Addison's disease. The term adrenal fatigue, which was invented in 1998 by James Wilson, a chiropractor, may be applied to a collection of mostly nonspecific symptoms. There is no scientific evidence supporting the concept of adrenal fatigue and is not recognized as a diagnosis by any scientific or medical community. Sounds to me like serotonin syndrome, but what do I know? The Alexander technique, named after its creator, Frederick Matthias Alexander, is an educational process that was created to retrain habitual patterns of movement and posture. Alexander believed that poor habits in posture and movement damaged spatial self-awareness as well as health. Movement efficiency could support overall physical well-being. He saw the technique as mental training as well. Alexander began developing his technique principles in the 1890s in an attempt to address voice loss during public speaking. He credited his method with allowing him to pursue his passion for reciting in Shakespearean theater. Some proponents of the Alexander technique say that it addresses a variety of health conditions related to cumulative physical behaviors, but there's little evidence to support that many of the claims made about the technique. As of 2015, there was evidence suggesting the Alexander technique may be helpful both long-term back pain and long-term neck pain, and may help people cope with Parkinson's disease. Interesting. Alternative cancer treatments, there's probably a ton. They say vitamin C is one of them. You take a shit ton of vitamin C and boom, your cancer's gone. Alternative or fringe medicines. They don't really say specific ones, but like I guess you could say like homeopathy, holistic medicine, stuff like that. Animal magnetism, known as mesmer. German doctor Franz Mesmer in the 18th century to what he believed to be an invisible natural force possessed by all living things, including humans, animals, and vegetables. Humans, animals, and vegetables. He believed that the force could have physical effects, including healing, and tried persistently but without success to achieve scientific recognition of his ideas. Interesting. Anthroposophic medicine, a form of alternative medicine devised in the 1920s by Steiner and Ida Wegman, based on occult notions and drew on Steiner's spiritual philosophy, which he called anthroposophy. Practitioners employ a variety of treatment techniques based on anthroposophic precepts. Many drug preparations used in anthroposophic medicine are ultra-diluted substances similar to those in homeopathy. Some anthroposophic doctors oppose childhood vaccination, and this has led to preventable outbreaks of disease. I guess look at what's going on in Canada right now. Apitherapy is a branch of alternative medicine that uses honeybee products, including honey, pollen, and propolis, royal jelly, and bee venom. Proponents of apitherapy make claims for its health benefits, which remain unsupported by evidence-based medicine. I thought like bee stings did actually help like some people. That was like a thing. Or is that just the apitherapy that they're talking about? And I just was believing bullshit. No. Aromatherapy. What's wrong with aromatherapy? People who specialize in the practice of aromatherapy utilize blends of supposedly therapeutic essential oils that can be used as topical application, massage, inhalation, or there's no good medical evidence that aromatherapy can either prevent, treat, or cure any disease. I don't know about that, but I think it can help with like simple things like relaxing and opening up like the airways and like that stuff like that can help with like diseases and stuff. I don't know. Auriculotherapy. Alternative medicine based on the idea that the ear is a microsystem which reflects the entire body, represented on the auricle, the outer portion of the ear. That's crazy.
That is crazy.
Ayurveda. I think we all kind of know what that is too, but it's a 5,000-year-old medicine with roots in ancient India based on mind-body set of beliefs. Imbalance or stress in an individual's consciousness is believed to be the cause of diseases. Patients are classified by body types, 3 doshas, which are considered to control mind, body harmony, determine individual body type. We all know this, right? And treatment is aimed at restoring balance to the mind-body system. Has long been the main traditional system of healthcare in India and has become institutionalized in India's colleges and schools, although unlicensed practitioners are common. As with other traditional knowledge, much of it was lost in the West. Current practice is in part based on the teachings of the Maharishi Mahesh Yogi in the 80s, who mixed with transcendental meditation. Other forms of Ayurveda exist as well. Interesting. Balneotherapy is the presumed benefit from disease by bathing, a traditional medicine technique usually practiced at spas. I think bathing helps with disease fighting. I don't know if it'll cure a disease, but I think it helps. Bates method, an alternative therapy aimed at improving eyesight. Attributed to nearly all eyesight problems to habitual strain of the eyes, and thus felt that relieving such strain would cure the problem. This guy's just like, hey, everybody smoke weed. You guys are good. Biological terrain assessment, a set of computerized tests used to measure the pH resistivity and redox potentials of a person's urine, blood, and saliva with the intention of recommending a customized program of health supplements and remedies. I mean, that just sounds like the future at that point, based on the results. Biorhythm theory, an attempt to predict various aspects of a person's life through simple mathematical cycles. Theory was developed by Wilhelm Fliess in the late 19th century and was popularized in the US in the 70s. It was described as pseudoscience. Body memory is a hypothesis that the body itself is capable of storing memories as opposed to only the brain. Brain Gym is an organization promoting a series of exercises claimed to improve academic performance. 26 brain gym activities are claimed to improve eye teaming. That just sounds like a like a pyramid scheme. Candida hypersensitivity. It has been spuriously claimed that chronic yeast infections are responsible for many common disorders and non-specific symptoms, including fatigue, weight gain, constipation, dizziness, muscle and joint pain, asthma, and others. The notion is strongly challenged by the American Academy of Allergy. Carnivore diet, a fad diet in which nothing is eaten but meat, as well as being unhealthy. The diet has a damaging and environmental. That's all they say. The chelation therapy is claimed by some practitioners of alternative medicine to treat a variety of ailments, including heart disease and autism. What? While chelation is a valid form of medical treatment used as means to treat conditions such as acute heavy metal toxicity, the use of chelation therapy by alternative medicine practitioners for behavioral and other disorders is considered pseudoscientific. Yeah. There is no proof that it is effective. In addition to being ineffective, chelation therapy prior to heavy metal testing can artificially raise urinary heavy metal concentration and can lead to inappropriate and unnecessary treatment. Chiropractics. We don't really got to get into that. Everybody knows what chiropractic is.
Yeah, I'm never going to a chiropractor.
No, I would go once. Just once. I would never go to a chiropractor. Just like flat out like, nah, I'm good. Keep it.
I don't need
I
it.
don't need it. I wouldn't mind just getting like one good like snap, like a twig, I guess, but that's just me. Chromotherapy or color therapy, distinct from other types of light therapy, which is neonatal jaundice treatment and blood irradiation therapy. I wouldn't want to try either of those, which is scientifically accepted medical treatment for a number of conditions. Okay. And from photobiology, the scientific study of the light on living organisms. French skeptic and lighting physicist Sebastien Point considers LED lamps a domestic radiance to be safe and normally used for the general population. Okay. Thanks, buddy. The LED lights, as they are safe for your eyes, they will not cause you to go blind. Chronic Lyme disease, not to be confused with Lyme disease, is generally rejected diagnosis that encompasses a broad array of illnesses or symptom complexes in which there are no reproducible or convincing scientific evidence of any relation to the infection. Despite numerous studies, there's no clinical evidence that chronic Lyme disease is caused by a persistent infection. It is distinct from post-treatment Lyme disease syndrome, a set of lingering symptoms which may persist after successful treatment of infection with Lyme spirochetes. The symptoms of chronic Lyme are generic and non-specific. Symptoms of life. Yeah, you don't have chronic Lyme disease, you just got life. Colon cleansing. Moving on. Colloidal silver. A colloid consisting of silver particles suspended in liquid, and formations containing silver salts were used by physicians in the early 20th century. By their use, largely discontinued in the 40s, following the development of safer and effective modern antibiotics. I've heard of colloidal silver before. That was like in everything. Like all those, we were talking about those like those old school medicines. Colloidal silver was like in every like old school medicine. That was like the thing. COVID-19 misinformation. Moving on. Craniosacral therapy, a form of bodywork or alternative therapy using gentle touch to manipulate the synostoral joints of the cranium. That sounds soothing. A practitioner of craniosacral therapy may also apply light touches to a patient's spine and pelvis. Practitioners believe that this manipulation regulates the flow of spinal fluid and aids in primary respiration. Craniosacral therapy was developed by John Upledger, DO, in the 70s as an offshoot of osteopathy in the cranial field, or cranial osteopathy, which was developed in the 30s by William Garner Sutherland. Cryonics, we all know about that. Freezing shit. Maybe freezing Walt Disney's dead body or his head so that one day we can revive him and use his brain. That kind of shit. Fry from Futurama. That's cryonics. We all know about cryonics. Crystal healing. Taking crystals and supposedly like having a healing effect with them. We all know about that one too. Cupping therapy. That sounds dirty. An ancient form of alternative medicine, cupping is used in more than 60 countries. Its usage dates back to as far as 1550 BC, and there are different forms of cupping. The most common are dry, wet, and fire cupping. Cups are applied onto the skin, and a suction is created, pulling the skin up. It is meant to increase blood flow to certain areas of the body, not a part of medical practice in the modern era. Detoxification, we all know certain things you detox. I feel like detoxing works, but for certain things, like, you drink a lot of water and you're definitely get a lot of the stuff that's in your body out. That's just basic, that's basic detoxing though. Or like sweating out a lot of stuff. Sweating out is good for a lot of things. You sweat out chemicals, all kinds of shit. If they're saying that doesn't exist, I refuse to believe that. Digit ratio, calculated by dividing the length of an index finger by the ring finger of the same hand. It's proposed to correlate with various personalities. Wow, that's crazy. Ear candling, also called ear coning, is alternative medicine practice claimed to improve general health. Have you heard of this before?
No.
You take a candle.
Ear coning.
Yeah. You take a bunch of wax and like a candle, and you put like it so the wax drips down into your ear, and then you take it when the wax is like all like when it's hard instead of like soft, and you basically pull out all the earwax and junk out of your ear using the wax.
Gross.
Yeah. Isn't that crazy? That's a thing that people do.
Yeah.
That's a legit thing that people do.
That's insane.
Yeah. Earthing therapy, or grounding. A therapy that is claimed to ease pain, provide a better night's sleep, and assist with symptoms of inflammation by being in direct physical contact with the ground or a device connected to the electrical ground. Well, I get that because I like to sleep on the ground sometimes. Anyways, electrohomeopathy, the Matai cancer cure, a derivative of homeopathy invented in the 19th century. Name is derived from the combination of electro, in case you couldn't figure that out, and homeopathy, in case you couldn't figure that out, and has been defined as the combination of electrical devices and homeopathy, in case you couldn't figure that out. Electromagnetic hypersensitivity, reported sensitivity to electric and magnetic fields or electromagnetic radiation. I think this exists. I think a lot of these that we've read in this particular section haven't existed, but I think this one exists. Energy medicine, energy therapy, energy healing, vibrational medicine, psychic healing. Okay. Facilitated communication, attempts to aid communication by people with autism or other communication disabilities. The facilitator holds the disabled person's arm or hand during the process and attempts to help them move to type on a keyboard or other device. Okay. Rapid prompting method, a closely related discredited technique. A fad diet, a diet that becomes popular for a short time. I mean, that's not pseudoscience. That's just the thing that happens. I guess it's a fad diet because it's like it goes into like fasting and detoxification and all this other things that people consider to be fads. Faith healing, act of curing disease by such means as prayer, laying of hands. We talked about that earlier. The Findenkrais method is a type of exercise therapy devised by Israeli Moshe Feldenkrais during the mid-20th century. The method is claimed to reorganize connections between the brain and body, and so improve the body movement and psychological state. Functional medicine. Okay. Germanic New Medicine. Basically, it's saying that sometimes bacteria and viruses belong, and that it's a special, meaningful program of nature, and that morphine and chemotherapy or pain relieving drugs are deadly. It's crazy. I mean, he's not wrong about morphine being deadly, but to say that it doesn't help, it's crazy.
Whatever this list is, it's incredibly closed-minded.
It's the list of topics characterized as pseudoscience.
I think it's going a little overboard.
Well, this one specifically is all like applied sciences, so I think that's why. Germ theory denialism. I won't go through the really crazy ones. Hair analysis, chemical analysis of hair. That's a thing though. That's real. Hexagonal water, a term used in a marketing scam that claimed the ability to create a certain configuration of water that is better for the body. I'd buy it. Homeopathy, iridology, means of medical diagnosis which proponents believe can identify, diagnose health problems through close examination of the markings and patterns of the iris. Wow. I've heard of that one. Jelly juice, a potentially dangerous fermented drink claimed to treat a variety of medical conditions. Lightning process, a system claimed to be derived from osteopathy and life coaching. Proponents claim that the process can have a positive effect on a long list of diseases and conditions. Macrobiotic diets, fixed on ideas about types of food drawn from Zen Buddhism. The diet attempts to balance the supposed yin and yang food and cookware. That sounds cool. Magnet therapy, we all know about that. Morgellons, a self-diagnosed, unexplained skin condition in which individuals have sores that they believe contain some kind of fibers. I've heard about this one too. That's crazy. Moxibustion, the application on or above the skin of smoldering mugwort. A Cochrane review found moderate certainty evidence for the use of moxibustion plus usual care in correcting breech presentation of babies, but uncertainty about the need for external cephalic version. Moxibustion has also been studied for the treatment of pain, cancer, stroke, and ulcerative colitis, constipation, hypertension. Saying that mugwort can basically help stimulate acupuncture points. Negative air ionization therapy. The air ionizers as an experimental non-pharmaceutical treatment. It is widely considered suicide. See, this one is interesting because if you grow marijuana in a negative air ion generator, it supposedly makes the improves like the weed, and actually like it'll take away the smell of the weed, but it'll improve like the overall quality of the weed. True story.
That's cool.
Yeah. Oil pulling is a folk remedy where oil is swished or held in the mouth for up to 20 minutes with the goal of improving oral as well as systemic health. It is said that this technique pulls out toxins from the body and is claimed to be able to treat a plethora of conditions. I'm going to go do that right now.
Well, I've heard of that one. Oil pulling.
That sounds gross. That's awful.
Yeah. I mean, you should just be like, it's what people should be doing is taking like a shot of olive oil.
That's true. You can get pretty much the exact same effect. Huh. Do they mean, well, I guess they could mean any oil, so they don't just mean like in my head I was thinking like black oil. But you really just
Ugh,
yeah, no, of course not. But like really that's true, just any kind of oil, like olive oil, vegetable oil, anything like that. I would say olive oil might be the best. Orthomolecular medicine, sometimes referred to as megavitamin therapy. Nutritional supplementation to maintain human health. I mean, I think you should get nutrition in order to stay healthy, but like, maybe don't be somebody who takes nutrients when things go bad. Maybe try to eat the nutrients and do things before they happen. Pulse diagnosis is a diagnostic technique used in Ayurveda, traditional Chinese medicine, and traditional Mongolian medicine. It's ill-defined, subjective, and unreliable. It doesn't even say what it is. Oh, it's funny because I click on the page and that's all it says too. Radionics, means of medical diagnosis and therapy which proponents believe can diagnose and remedy health problems using various frequencies in putative energy field coupled to the practitioner's electronic device. I've heard of that one before. The Reiki, a form of energy healing, palm healing or hands-on healing through which a universal energy is to be transferred through the palms of the practitioner to the patient in order to encourage emotional or physical healing. Reflexology or zone therapy, an alternative medicine involving the physical act of applying pressure to the feet, hands, or ears with a specific thumb, finger, and hand techniques without the use of oil or lotion. That sounds uncomfortable. Rolfing, also called structural integration, body manipulation devised by Ida Rolf, claimed by practitioners to be capable of ridding the body of traumatic memories stored in the muscle. Therapeutic touch, a form of vitalism where a practitioner, who also may be a nurse, passes their hands over around a patient to realign or rebalance a putative energy field. Traditional Chinese medicine, and then it has a list of traditional Chinese medicines: gua sha, meridians, shiatsu, qi, qiang, and zhang fu. If you want to know about those, look them up. I don't feel like going through them. Tomatis method, a type of auditory integration training, developed without supporting evidence. Auditory integration training. Okay. Urine therapy. Moving on. Promotion of a link between autism and vaccines. Moving on. Vitalism. Doctrine that the processes of life are not explicable by the laws of physics and chemistry alone, and that life is in some part self-determining. That's pretty interesting. Water memory, a homeopathic theory based on the purported ability of water to retain a memory of substances previously dissolved in it. Wind turbine syndrome. Terms are adverse effects ascribed to the proximity of being around wind turbines. Oh, technology, 5G conspiracies. The Christ myth theory. It's a theory that says that Jesus didn't exist at all. Historical materialism, criticized the Marxist theory of history on the grounds of being unfalsifiable, specifically claimed while the theory was originally scientific, over time it has been modified and degraded into a non-scientific form. Paranormal and ufology. Here's a quick one. Animal mutilations. We all know that happens. Apparently, it might be because of Greys trying to experiment on cattle or gain some kind of genetic code or some shit like that. There's an aura or human energy field supposedly around our body is an energy field. Effects often understood to be composed of centers of vital force called the chakra. Such claims are not purported to be yada yada. So yeah, we might have the chakras. Channeling, communication of information to or through person. We talked about that earlier. Crop circles. We know UFOs come down. They make they take cornfields and they make fun little designs on them and expect us to know what they mean. You have cryptozoology. You have, we've talked so much about cryptozoology, Loch Ness Monster, Yeti, Bigfoot, all that shit. Lake Champlain Monster. I want to go over there and see Champ. Dowsing, we just talked about that. Electronic voice phenomenon, hearing voices through tape recorders. That's kind of wild. I've always wanted to experience that. ESP, we've pretty much gone over ESP entirely this episode. Ghost hunting, looking for ghosts in weird spooky areas and then hearing like doors creak and then shoes stomp or something and then seeing a door shut and then getting the hell out of there. Lizard people. We've talked at length about lizard people before. I mean, they're out there. Levitation, act of rising up from the ground without any physical aids, usually by the power of thought. Palmistry, the belief that the future can be foretold through palm reading. Predictions are based on the shape, line, and mounts of the hands. Palmists use cold reading in order to appear psychic. I kind of want to get into palm reading because I was doing a little bit of reading on it, and I think I'm pretty into like the whole palm reading thing. I have an M on.
There's a few palm readers in the city.
Well, I want to get into like what palm, not like telling your like future and stuff like that, but like using like palmist to like look at like my hand and like tell like little things about my personality. Because like I have an M on both my hands, and I looked up that's like apparently a thing, and it's kind of crazy. It's like a solid M. Palmistry. It's a thing apparently. Parapsychology, pseudo-archaeology, investigation of ancient past using alleged paranormal other means. Psychic surgery, we went over that earlier. Psychokinesis, already yada yada. Seances, ritualized attempts to communicate with the dead. The Tunguska event. Why is this in paranormal and ufology? There should be way more in this paranormal and ufology. Like I feel like they didn't even the surface. For those that don't know, the Tunguska event was this large explosion in I think it was June 1908 in Russia, and there was just this massive explosion that people could even see that literally lit up the sky around the planet, going to like Great Britain, I think you could even see it in like the West Coast in America. It was just such a massive explosion that it caused literally like a bright sky everywhere around the world, and nobody fully knows what it was, and it might have been a UFO crashing. People think it might have been a miniature black hole, ball lightning, a large body of antimatter. People think maybe it was a meteorite or comet. That's like the most common explanation, but nobody fully knows what exactly it was. And I forget, but I think the whole area was irradiated afterwards, but I could be mistaken on that.
You remember the big crater in Red Dead Redemption?
Yeah, exactly. That's based on the Tunguska one, but in like a smaller version. Pretty much, right? You'd say so. That's why you mentioned it, yeah. Religious and spiritual beliefs, affirmative prayer, positive outcome rather than a negative situation. Uh, Energy is used by various esoteric forms of spirituality and alternative medicine. Exorcism. Why did I just said?
Yeah.
What the fuck?
What the
I know the word. I don't know why I just said that wrong.
Exorcism.
Exorcism. Exorcism is the
There's probably some British prick somewhere who pronounces it like that.
Exorcism. I must take this person out back and release the demons from within them. I can't believe I said that. That's fucking crazy. Exorcism. We both reacted at the same time too. Oh shit, that was funny. Creation science. Oh god. Basically talks about all the different types of creationism. This section is just called idiosyncratic ideas. So this is called the aquatic ape hypothesis. The idea that certain ancestors of modern humans were more aquatic than other great apes, and even many modern humans were habitual waders, swimmers, and divers. Lawsonomy.
Aren't there humans alive right now that are like that?
Yeah, they're called water signs.
No, you know what I mean. Though.
I know, I'm joking. I mean, yeah, like Michael Phelps.
No, aren't there like tribes that essentially live in the water?
Are there? Is that a thing?
Look it up. Look it up.
Like Namor and Wakanda Forever?
Yes, but they're humans.
Several indigenous people around the world have a strong connection to the water, with some even living on or near a primary mode of existence. The Baju people, also known as sea nomads, are notable examples, spending much of their lives on boats in Southeast Asia. Another group, the Moken people, are known for their unique ability to see clearly underwater.
Isn't that cool?
Yeah, that is really cool. I like the seeing underwater thing. That's cool.
We all have superpowers if we just, strengthen them.
Yeah, we also just have to let like the crushing blow of evolution and our environment affect us and allow us to adapt over the course of a few years, so to speak. We also have Lawsonomy, proposed philosophy and system of claims about physics made by baseball player and aviator Alfred William Lawson. Well, I mean, he's an aviator and a baseball player, so he must know everything about physics. Morphic resonance, the idea put forth by Rupert Sheldrake that natural systems such as termite colonies or pigeons or orchid plants or insulin molecules inherit a collective memory from all previous things of their kind. Is also claimed to be responsible for mysterious telepathy-type interconnections between organisms. N-rays, a hypothesized form of radiation described by Prosper René Blondlot in 1903 that briefly inspired a significant scientific interest, but were subsequently found to have been a result of confirmation bias. These are the things I watched. I watched like a dramatization and like it went over this idea about N-rays, and it was the whole the segment was called the radiation that only the French could see. And the reason why is because all the French people would show like this one dude would like show all like the French people that he like was around, and they would all be like, "Oh my god, that's amazing." And they would all like basically be like, "Yeah, I see it." And then when he went and started like showing like British people and shit, they were just like, "I don't know what the fuck you're talking about." So people started being like, "Yeah, this is the radiation that only the French can see." Funny little story there. Penta water, the claimed acoustically induced structural reorganization of liquid water into long-lived small clusters of 5 molecules each. Neither these clusters nor their asserted benefits to humans have been shown to exist. Polywater, hypothetically.
So I
Yep.
don't know if this is connected to that, but I remember watching this lecture this guy was giving about water and about how like water holds memory and how like the way that it's just he was just going in. He was like a guy who was obsessed with water, and it was like a lot of pseudoscience stuff, but a lot of it was pretty fascinating.
Yeah. Time Cube.
Oh, this fucking guy.
I've never heard of this. A website created by Gene Ray in 1997, where he sets out his personal model of reality, which he calls the time cube. He suggests that all of modern physics is wrong, and his time cube model proposes that each day is really 4 separate days occurring simultaneously. Time wave zero, a numerological formula that was invented by psychonaut Terence McKenna with the help of the hallucinogenic drug DMT. After experiencing 2012 doomsday predictions, he redesigned his formula to have a 0 point at the same date as the Mayan long count calendar. And last but not least, in our dive into topics characterized as pseudoscience, we have the torsion field, a hypothetical physical field responsible for extrasensory perception, homeopathic cures, levitation, telepathy, clairvoyance, and telekinesis, and other paranormal phenomena. It posits that the quantum spin of particles can be used to cause emanations to carry information through vacuum orders of magnitude faster than the speed of light.
A lot of that made me mad.
A lot of that made me... Why? Because you don't consider it pseudoscience? Or because...
Exactly.
Well, some of it, though, was definitely pseudoscience, though. You got to admit that some of that was, like, total bullshit.
Yeah.
I'm probably going to edit out some of the stuff that I talked about how I wasn't going to get into. So, in case you're anybody's listening to this and wonder, there are some things that were probably mentioned that I didn't want mentioned because they're a little too controversial. But rest assured, they're not that, it's not... They're definitely bullshit. There was some other pages too that it talked about like lists of other things that kind of relate, but that's a topic for another day. But yeah, like I was saying, probably do the news episode next, so keep a lookout for that. and try to stay off the streets and out of the riots.
Or go to the protests. Stay out of the riots. Go to the protests.
Yeah, stay out of the riots, but go to the protests. No matter what side of the protest it is, for or against. Go to both sides even. Make friends on both sides. Why not, right? Be open-minded.